Good morning, Sotu.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We are SOTU, and this is SOTUesday for the 31st day of January 2017. And we are here with our old friend, or she's not that old, but Adrienne. We've kind of surprised her again by plopping the ball in her court and saying, "What do you have for us today, dear one?"
Well, we've been looking at what will it take for people to just loosen their grip a little bit on their own personal viewpoint and agenda to let in a larger viewpoint that could encompass everyone.
Well, in order to do that, one must stop defending one's position as if one is directly under attack. You have to understand, well, you don't have to understand, and we would say to you that a reflection of your world would say right now that you do not understand the dynamics of how you have been divided and in so many different ways that it has disempowered you as individuals and it has disempowered you as a species because you all seem so different. Now, please understand something, that this has been a part of the natural growth of earthly humanity. You have been going through thousands of years of what we would call your adolescence as a species. And from this dynamic, you have to understand this has become your paradigm. You don't really remember your childhood other than in the vaguest sort of terms. And you certainly do not remember the beginning parts of your, what shall we say, your adolescence, your journey into, from our perspective, your journey into individuation, your journey into the dynamic of developing what we have called the sacred I am. In the childhood of your species, in the early years of your species, through the dynamic of your connection with nature, and through the dynamic of the connection with nature, the connection with spirit, you knew who you were. You knew that you were one with your mother, the earth. But in the dynamics, just as every child moves and grows, so too as a species did you need to move and grow. And so you moved in from the childhood of your adolescence into the childhood of your species into the adolescence of your species. And, that has been a dynamic of developing from the collective knowing, moving into an individual knowing of your connection with spirit. The problem is that you have moved to such an isolation, a place of isolation, a place of individuation. It's almost as if the pendulum has swung to an extreme level, and so you have forgotten the dynamics of your actual connection with each other. But we would suggest to you that if you just look into your heart, that if you just look into the dynamics of, take a few moments to just be quiet and to look inside of yourself, it's not hard to find that spark of the divine. It is not hard to find that spark of life, that spark of connection. Now, we are not talking about any religious dynamic, but we are talking about a whole dynamic of accepting that there is more to you than just this physical shell.
One of the ways that I find to accept and come to peace with where the world is right now as being a transition is to remember how it was in high school. Because I think most people can relate to the sense of isolation and the sort of group identities, the clique identities that formed.
But always yet the dynamic of insecurity. And we would suggest to you that in the dynamic of moving into family, but then even beyond moving from the dynamic of family, because it used to be a family unit that came together, that provided you with your connection to each other and to community. But that dynamic moved more into that sense of isolation, that sense of self. And that was necessary. It was necessary, but it has taken you to a dynamic of an extreme.
Yes, but I'm saying by framing it and understanding adolescence, we can also understand that it's something we move beyond, that there is a whole lot beyond
Well,
that.
but first you must realize that you're in it. You must realize that as a species, and especially you Americans, are acting in a very immature way. You are acting as if your reality, you're reacting to your reality as if you were, many of you, not all of you, we realize that 50% of you completely understand what we are saying. But there's another 50% of you out there who are so locked into the dynamics of your belief. And you're not who you think you are. That's the problem. You're not who you think you are. You have been taught for so many decades now to abdicate your personal responsibility to others that you do not even realize the personal empowerment, the personal ability to manifest that each of you has. You have been convinced in so many ways that you are flawed. You have been convinced in so many ways that you are powerless. That could not be further from the truth. It's your turn.
Well, I don't have anywhere specific to go other than to say that there is so much more beyond that. And
that's absolutely correct. There is so much more beyond that. But first, the first step is to realize, to begin to question even your firmest beliefs. You know, dear ones, you have bought the story that you tell yourselves. You know, you can live in a reality for a while that you tell yourself. You can, but eventually the consensus reality is going to catch up with you. You can delay the dynamic of growth of soul. You know, you could, as a species, go extinct if you wish. You know, that's still a choice in the dynamics of your future. There are many choices that you can make, and yet we would say to you that there is a choice of a golden dream for humanity. A dream of peace with enough for all. A dream of the flourishing of the true creativity of humanity. All you have to do is begin to be convinced that you are enough and that there is enough.
And part of that starts with even accepting that there's, as you said, 50% of the population that's the 50% that's unaware, that for them to accept that there is another 50% that has as valid an experience
as they do. That's absolutely correct. And it has not been a pleasant experience for them.
No, it has been
increasingly. 50% of you out there, you wish that status quo to continue. You wish your comfort to continue. You wish it all to continue. Why? Because you have thrived. You have flourished within it. And even though the pressure may be always out there that is keeping you in a place of fear and keeping you reacting in a place of fear and keeping you in that place of divisiveness and dividedness, even though that is there, by finding that dynamic of the connection, of that spark of all that is within each and every one of you, even those of you that do not believe that it is there.
And it's when these two pieces can begin to recognize and communicate and come together and respect each other that all the answers, a whole myriad of answers,
well,
could
what
be
you
available.
have is, and we're just going to end with this today, you must understand that what you have is a dynamic of paradox within the dynamic of divide and conquer. The most effective divide and conquerors are the ones where there is a paradox where two ends of a dynamic are true. And there are two ends of a dynamic, two ends of an extreme that are false. So the answer becomes being able to see the truth and the lies in both extremes. In order to do that, you must be willing to look at the other side And those of you that have any compassion, those of you that have any empathy, it will be those first steps for you into true understanding. And, dare we say it, true enlightenment. All right, dear ones, we managed to fill 10 minutes so quickly. We love you all so very, very much. We have a couple of announcements. One of them is we'll be presenting a new TV show pretty shortly, which will be entitled Conversations with SOTU, which will be a format much similar to the formats that we have used in the past around the longer presentations. It will begin with a half an hour, and we'll move upward from there in order to basically find what shall we say, an opportunity for you to understand the reflections of soul in your daily world, your reflection of soul. In other words, there is an active communication going on between you and soul, and we wish to show you how it is speaking to you in many ways. So now we would suggest you, if you have any questions for us, feel free to email us, feel free to comment, feel free to ask us a question on the website, whatever works for you. All right, dear ones. Adrienne, thank you for your questions. You want to get a word in?
Well, just that you said a couple of things. We probably will be continuing the conversations with SOTU online. But
yes, but again, let us walk before we run.
Okay.
All right. And so we'll speak to you more about this next week, because it's not going to happen between this week and next week. And so until then, we close, sending you peace, sending you happiness, sending you joy.